Hi, this is Regina White Favors with Homeless Recovery Tips. And so, the topic that I want to discuss in this audio is the homeless shelter is not your parent. And in some ways, this should be an obvious statement that um, the homeless shelter is not your parent, right? But a lot of times, whatever we did not get in our childhood, or if we struggled or had to suffer under some sort of childhood trauma, and we did not get the parenting that we needed at that time, we sort of leave the existing home structure or family dynamic in search of a parent, a pseudo parent, a pretend parent, any type of parent in terms of, uh, I don't know, receiving compassion, receiving grace, receiving mercy that we did not receive when we were children or just just babies, meaning that sometimes we didn't have those teachable moments. The parent that we did have did not design instruction and discipline as a teachable moment. Instead, the parent essentially punished, left you to your own devices, and then kind of repeated the pattern. And then you had some parents who are just uninvolved in their children's lives from the time they were babies all the way up into their young adulthood. And so when you have a uninvolved parent, you don't know, you don't have a base upon which you can grow and learn. And then you have authoritarian type parents who are kind of disciplinarians, and they honestly care more about how they discipline you than how they help you to understand who you should be as an individual. And then you have uh, permissive parents, and those types of parents tend to be just kind of allow you to do whatever you're going to do. You kind of run yourself, right? So the four parenting styles that I kind of named off, there's authoritative, which is parents guide you throughout your development, understanding. They design teachable moments. That's authoritative. Then you have authoritarian, where it is the type of parent who loves to say, do it because I said so, right? That type of parent is a strict disciplinarian, does not design teachable moments, um, and basically expects blind obedience, right? And then the uninvolved parent is one is just not involved, is just what the word means. It's just not quite involved. Sometimes these may be parents who leave you with your grandmother or your big mama or your big nana, right? And then the permissive parents, you kind of run yourself as an adult, and you don't really have the the structure that you need, the knowledge base, the understanding, the development tools, the skills to run yourself as an adult while you are 12 years old. And so then when you don't get those types of parenting styles, especially the authoritarian, uninvolved, and permissive, um, when you are exposed to those types of parenting styles, but you don't get the authoritative, where there is some confidence in the parent to parent, then you are going to search for the types of parents you have been exposed to in friends, relationships, group dynamics, right? And you're looking for the person who is authoritative, authoritarian, uninvolved, and permissive to almost be the leader of you. And so I think that is the reason why some people tend to go back and forth into the prison system, which we call recidivism. They kind of just go back and forth because I think it is largely, and I'm just assuming here that is largely based upon their own existing or previous family dynamic. And so we know that the correctional system is an authoritarian system, meaning that um, they're very hands on with how they correct you, right? How they lead you, because the assumption is you don't know how to lead yourself. That's why you keep coming back and forth into prison. And so there's some uninvolvement in the sense that um, they they're not hands on with your education, what you need to do in terms of skill development, they pass that on to a third party contractor or vendor. And then the permissive aspect of it is that you can roam the recs, the recreational side of the prison however way you want, as long as you don't get into arguments and fights, etc. And so, if you've been exposed to a lot of that in your existing or previous family dynamic, if you take some time to stay out of toxic relationships, chaotic environments, disordered environments, and really let your mind think about how you grew up, how you were reared in your family dynamic. Who was your mother? Who was your father? Who was a substitute? Who was the caregiver? Who was the guardian? And then look at all the friends that you have. Look at all the people that you have dealt with. Look at all the relationships, especially abusive relationships. Those types of domestic violence relationships. If you are experiencing a domestic violence type situation somewhere, you saw it in your childhood, because you do what you know. You do what is available knowledge to you. You do what is your comfort. Living in a noisy, chaotic, toxic, hostile environment is your normal for you. So then you're going to search for that. You're not going to search for peace. You're not going to search for anything that can give you comfort, confidence, stability, right? You're going to search for instability. You're going to search for anything that threatens to pull the rug up under you, rug from up under you, because that's what you're used to. You had to move a lot when you were a child. You had to hide in the closet when your father had his alcoholic rants. You had to be a people pleaser to your mother because of her hostility towards you, framing you as the scapegoat. Then when you are experiencing all these things in childhood, you don't have time to think about it. You don't have time to reflect on it. There is no such thing as you voicing your opinion and how you are raised and how you are nurtured and how you are reared and how you are kicked out of the house before your time. And you get used to the homelessness, and the homelessness can be emotional, psychological, mental, financial, spiritual. Any it can fall under any one of those categories, and you get used to the homelessness when you're young. It becomes almost like a warm um, Charlie Brown Linus blanket. You just wrap it around you as if it's the only thing that can comfort you. Well, pay attention to who you are today as an adult and think about what you're doing. You are lying out, you are homeless, lying out with a blanket around you, uh, and there seems to be no end in sight, as if that's the only option you have. Homelessness is just one option. It is not the only option. But if you find yourself homeless in single to double digit years, you have said to yourself and you have convinced yourself that this is the only option for you. And so then the homeless shelter, when they let you in the same way that you probably had the same types of issues when you were a child, when your parents let you come back home, becomes your parent. You think it's your parent. You think it's the only thing that can guide. You don't have the you lack the self regulation tools. You might have either been you might have been expected to self regulate too early in your life, and it burned you out, or you were not taught any kind of self-regulation tools, and that too can burn you out, especially if you're still toddler in your thinking. So the homeless shelter is not your parent in the sense that you have to learn how to guide yourself. You are still 100% responsible for yourself as an adult, regardless of how you were raised, regardless of how whether or not you received what you needed to receive. There are still resources. There are internet resources. There are TV-based resources, cable-based resources, narratives, films, all types of resources out here that can help you in terms of understanding how you need to manage yourself. If you're still living outside, if you're still governing yourself as a homeless person, then you have developed the system for homelessness. You have developed the understanding, the belief system. It is something that you support, and you are basically unwilling to change until you actually have to change it. So the homeless shelter is not your parent. You cannot use it consistently forever and a day thinking that you will always have that as an option. There is no guarantee that you will ever be able to get back into a homeless shelter. There's no guarantee of that. They take it, it is literally by chance, and that means you are taking your life by chance. You are gambling with your own very life. I was listening to a YouTube video on the channel Invisible People, and there was this person, this man who had cancer, and he's sitting up here homeless, but he had cancer, and of course he may not have he doesn't have the insurance right to go to the hospital or anything like that, but there was nothing on the inside of him that made his situation urgent enough to say, okay, I got to get out of this situation. I got cancer and I need to overcome it. The only thing that he was focused on was his homelessness. And that's why I say in a previous audio, homelessness is a distraction because it distracts you from all the other things that you need to focus on, which is your well being. You making sure that you secure yourself financially, you keep an apartment, keeping a job, staying out of toxic relationships, and pushing yourself into a place of peace. And it's a distraction. And so the longer you stay homeless, the more you believe that people need to help you or need to guide you, which means that you are still looking for a parent. So if you're still looking for a parent, you may have to go through the grieving process of saying, I'm not going to be able to get what I need to get from this individual or this organization, and that I need to take myself on as a task and reparent myself. Sometimes you may have to do that. You may have to take, say, a psychology introduction to psychology class because it'll help you understand things. If you are a Bible reader, read many of the Proverbs because those are practical lessons for how you need to manage your spirit, manage who you are as an individual. You may need to take a math class. You may need to do anything that's going to pursue peace for you. But just remember that the homeless shelter is not your parent. So this is Homeless Recovery Tips. The homeless shelter is not your parent.